Look at your own last name for a second. If you are Mexican or Mexican American, there is a very good chance that name was not chosen by your family. It was assigned. Written into a church register by a Spanish priest who was looking at your ancestor's face while he wrote it, in a language your ancestor may not have spoken, replacing a name that had belonged to that family for generations. And here is the part almost nobody knows. The system that did this was not designed to erase anything. There was no decree banning indigenous names, no burning of records, no official campaign. What happened to the names of an entire civilization happened because of a filing rule. A piece of administrative housekeeping, invented in Spain before Mexico was ever conquered, that quietly deleted almost every indigenous surname in the country within a single generation. Except two. Two groups slipped through for two completely different reasons, and if your family comes from either of those places, you may be carrying one of the only indigenous surnames in Mexico that survived. But to understand how a filing rule beat an empire's worth of names, we have to start in Spain, 18 years before Hernán Cortés ever saw the Mexican coast. The year is 1501. The man is Cardinal Francisco Jiménez de Cisneros, Archbishop of Toledo, Primate of Spain, and confessor to Queen Isabella herself, one of the most powerful men in Europe. And he has an administrative problem. The Spanish Empire is expanding faster than its paperwork can follow, and Spain cannot keep track of its own people. Names are inconsistent. Families are impossible to trace across generations. Tax records, land records, church records, none of them line up, so Cisneros issues an order. From now on, surnames are mandatory and standardized across the empire so that the crown can identify people by families. It is, on its face, one of the most boring documents of the 16th century, a records management memo. And it is the reason 130 million people are named the way they are today, because when Spain took Mexico, the paperwork came with it. That is the thing about bureaucracy. It does not care where it is applied. Cisneros designed a system for Castile. It arrived in a continent full of people who already had perfectly good names of their own, and it simply began processing them. Here's how it worked, and this is the mechanism that did the damage. Under the Spanish system, a person carries two surnames. The first from the father, the second from the mother. You inherit the first one and pass it down. The second one stops with you. Now, put an indigenous Mexican into that system. At baptism, a Nahua or Zapotec or Mixtec person was given a Spanish Christian name, and that Spanish name became the first surname. Their actual indigenous name was not destroyed. It was allowed to stay. It was written down carefully, in the register, as the second surname, and second surnames were not inherited. Read that again. The indigenous name was preserved for exactly one lifetime. Then that person had children, and the children inherited the Spanish first surname and their own mother's name in the second slot. The indigenous name did not move forward. It sat in a parish book and stopped. Not banned, not burned. Filed in the one field of the document that nothing was ever passed down from. This is why indigenous surnames in Mexico today are rare. Not because the names were hunted down, because the form only had one inheritable slot, and the Spanish name had already been put in it. After years of studying how entire peoples are scrubbed from historical records, I have never seen erasure happen so silently. There is no grand antagonist in this part of the story, just an administrator, a ledger, and a procedural rule governing which column gets copied over. But the registers themselves survived. And that is where this gets much darker, because those same books were recording something else about your ancestor at the same moment. Colonial Mexico ran on a system called the castas, a rigid socio-racial classification imposed by Spanish colonial rule and designed to maintain a hierarchy based on ancestry. And it was enforced at the parish level. At any baptism, any marriage, any burial, the priest conducting the ceremony would assign a classification to the person in front of him. He had a whole vocabulary to choose from. Indio, mestizo, mulatto, coyote, español. There was no test, no documentation required, no appeal. A priest looked at your ancestor, made a judgment, and wrote a word next to their name that would determine what they could own, who they could marry, and what their children would be permitted to become. Somewhere in a church archive in Mexico, there is very likely a page with your family's name on it and a single word beside it, chosen by a man who had known them for about 4 minutes. And it is in exactly those records that the strangest thing in this entire story shows up. If you scan colonial parish registers looking for indigenous people, you quickly notice that a huge number of them carry the same handful of surnames. De la Cruz, of the Cross, de los Reyes, of the Kings, de Santiago, de la Trinidad. These are read to a modern eye as the most Spanish, most Catholic, most colonial names imaginable. If you have one in your family, you have probably assumed it points to a devout Spanish ancestor somewhere. It very often means the opposite. These were transitory surnames, names handed to indigenous people at baptism precisely because they had no Spanish surname to give. They are, in a great many cases, the marker of the ancestor the record was designed to convert, not the one doing the converting. So the name in your family tree that looks most European may be the clearest surviving evidence that it is not. Which brings us to the exceptions. Because two groups came through this system with their indigenous names intact, and the reasons could not be more different. The first is the Tlaxcalans. When Cortes landed, the Tlaxcalan Nahuas were the great rivals of the Aztec Empire, and they made a decision that shaped the conquest. They allied with the Spanish. Tlaxcalan warriors fought alongside Cortes at Tenochtitlan, and afterwards, as allies rather than conquered subjects, they were permitted to keep their indigenous names as first surnames, the inheritable slot, the one that carries forward. It is an uncomfortable fact, and I'm not going to dress it up. In Mexico, one of the surest ways for an indigenous name to survive 5 centuries was for that family to have been on the winning side. The second exception is completely different and almost accidental. The Maya of the Yucatan already had an established tradition of patronymic surnames, inherited family names passed father to child long before any Spaniard arrived. When the Spanish system showed up demanding an inheritable first surname, the Maya simply had one already. Their names went into the correct column because their grammar happened to match the form. Collaboration or coincidence, that is what it took. If your family is from Tlaxcala or from the Yucatan, look at your name again. You may be holding one of the very few indigenous surnames in Mexico that made it through the machinery. Now, before you assume everything that is not indigenous in Mexican surnames is therefore Spanish, the North complicates that too. A significant share of the settlers who colonized northern Mexico were not Castilians. They were Basques, from the far north of Spain, speaking a language unrelated to Spanish and carrying names built out of it. Iturriaga, Lizarraga, Ochoa, Elizondo. Names that describe springs and hawthorn and wolves in a tongue that predates Latin in Europe. A word of caution, the common guides linking Basque last names to specific regions in Mexico aren't reliable, so I wouldn't bet on any individual pairing. What is not in doubt is the pattern. Basque families were disproportionately represented in the settlement of northern Mexico, and their names are still concentrated there, and that lines up with something the genetics found completely independently. When researchers at the University of Guadalajara measured paternal ancestry across Mexico, the Y chromosome passed father to son, they found European paternal ancestry running between 66 and 95% in the north and west, moved toward the center and the southeast, and Native American paternal lineages climbed to between 37 and 50%. The surname map and the chromosome map are drawing the same picture. Where European men settled densest, their names and their Y chromosomes both dominate. Where indigenous societies were largest and oldest, both signals survive. Which brings us to the number that ends this story. Everything we have talked about, the Cisneros order, the second surname rule, the casta labels, the transitory names, all of it operated on paper. Registers, forms, columns, ink. And on paper, it worked. It worked almost perfectly. Mexican surnames today are overwhelmingly Spanish, and the indigenous names of an entire civilization are, with those 2 exceptions, essentially gone from the record. Then in 2013, a team at the University of Guadalajara sequenced the mitochondrial DNA of 742 Mexican mestizos from 10 populations across the country. Mitochondrial DNA passes only from a mother to her children in an unbroken chain of women, and it does not blend, and it does not care what is written on a form. 92.9% of it was Native American, European maternal lineages 5.3%, African 1.9%. So here is where 500 years of paperwork actually landed. The surname on your birth certificate is a record of what the colonial system wanted your family to be. The DNA inside your cells is a record of who your family actually was. And those 2 documents do not agree at all. The names were changed in a single generation by a rule about which column gets inherited. The bloodline was not changed in 500 years because there is no column for it. Whoever your ancestor was, the woman who stood in front of that priest, while he decided what to call her and what to classify her as, she is still mathematically, almost certainly, in you. She lost the argument on the page, she won it everywhere else. Thanks for watching.